All right. Hello, ngHouston. I'm Keith Stewart. I'm one of the ngHouston organizers, and I'm going to be your host today. I'm really excited about this panel. We are all freshly back from ngConf 2018, and we're going to do a little recap for you. So before we get into it, let's go ahead and introduce our panel. So Sarah, why don't you get us started?
Oh yeah, sure. So I'm a software developer at Slong Consulting, which is the New York City office at the moment. I work on like several different types of projects. I come from mostly a C#.NET background, and the current client project I'm on right now uses Angular. So I had to get like ramped up and pretty much been doing Angular for like a few months now. So.
Awesome.
And she's very charming. All the people that met Sarah love her, myself included. We were really happy to have you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Bonnie's awesome.
That's great. Thanks for joining us, Sarah. Sam, I think folks know who you are, but why don't you say hello?
I'm Sam. I am the littlest developer on Twitter, and I gave a talk with Keith at ngConf.
Really?
Yeah, you guys rocked it.
Cool. Pretty chill guy.
Nice. All right. Thanks, Sam. All right, Lance, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. My name is Lance Finney. I'm a developer at Oasis Digital in St. Louis. I'm also an instructor with Angular Bootcamp. I've been working in Angular for about 4 years. Before that, I was a Java developer. And this year's ngConf was my second.
Nice. Mine too. It just keeps on bringing us back, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
It's good stuff. All right. Thanks, Lance. Kent, how you doing?
Pretty good. And so I'm Ken Johnson. I work at two places right now. One is my day job at American Digital Systems, where we're converting some legacy ERP systems over to Angular and Java, Spring, this whole Spring Cloud stack on the back end. And on my side project, I work for Veti LLP. I'm a co-founder and owner. It's a small tech startup. We're building software for political parties, and it keeps me pretty busy. So I have been using Angular for about 3 years now. Started with AngularJS, went to Angular, then I really liked this move to TypeScript, really liked Angular. But been to ngConf for 3 years now. Liked it every year, by far the best conference I've been to.
Awesome.
And I've been to a few. So.
Yeah, good. Yeah, my favorite conference as well. I get around to a few of them. ngConf always takes the cake. Mm-hmm. All right, thanks, Kent. And Ed, what's going on?
Hi, so my name is Ed Pelk, and I'm from a company called FreightChick, and been doing Angular for almost 4 years now, and been going to ngConf. This was my fourth one. But we're working on a big upgrade, almost done with that, and then got a couple of new Angular projects too.
Awesome.
Ed, you look sleep deprived too. We're both, Ed and I just got back from Sweet World in Vegas, like this morning on a red eye.
Yeah,
we're sleep
that's
deprived.
why neither one of them can actually open their eyes all the way. But,
yeah, but we didn't want to miss this episode because it seemed like a lot of fun and all kinds of cool people.
Nice. Well, we're glad you guys can join us. And Charlie, how's it going?
Hello, my name is Charlie Evans. I work for a company called Helmerich & Payne. We are a rig drilling services company based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I am also a .NET developer, so I do pretty much full stack .NET development. Got into the AngularJS game about 3 years ago. And we are still actually on AngularJS, but ngConf was kind of an eye-opener for me about, moving forward and that sort of thing. And this was my first one, so it was really cool to get to go, and I hope I get to keep going in the future.
That's great. Glad to have you on the panel. It'll be good to get the perspective of a first-time attendee.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And I don't know how Bonnie got on this panel, but she's here. So say hi, Bonnie.
Hello. So I'm Bonnie. I'm a Google developer expert, actually the founder of ngHouston, but I'm sitting in the back seat today and letting Keith run things, which he's doing awesome. And I was at ngConf this year as an organizer, which was kind of amazing because I've just been going for years and I love the conference. So it was really fun. So I'm pretty excited to hang out with you guys and talk about it.
Yeah, it's so exciting that you were able to be part of the organizing crew this year. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thanks everyone for joining. So I didn't get a chance to watch many talks this year. I don't know about you guys, but I was a little busy, so I could use a little bit of help in figuring out how to prioritize what talks I should be watching now. So who's got some favorite talks that they saw at ng-conf?
I think for me, by far, the most favorite talk was advanced DOM manipulation. I was actually, before I went to the conference, whenever I would see things like view container ref or anything with advanced DOM manipulation, I would be like, avoid, 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 because I don't understand that. I don't recognize it. It's too difficult. But the workshop was about 2 hours long, and it stepped through very small increments to the point where I felt comfortable. And now I feel comfortable with ng containers, ng templates. So that was just what I was looking for. I'm very pleased with that session.
Awesome. Who
did
was,
that talk?
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I guess I didn't write down his name, but he has a site called angularinDepth.com.
That's ngWizard then. Yeah.
ngWizard, that's right. I forget his name.
Maxim.
Okay, yeah. But it was excellent. I really, really liked that session.
I think the most impressive talks of the week were actually the two different talks by the StackBlitz guys. For those who don't know what it is, StackBlitz is an online editor, and they've really taken it quite a ways beyond what I think any of us thought you could do with an online editor. One of the things they demoed was running a PWA, a progressive web app from StackBlitz, and then having something like 800 people in the audience hit that URL with their own devices. And they were able to push changes to us on the fly. You know, they said it was the first large-scale stress testing that they had actually done of it, and it worked great. And they even were able to rickroll us all, which was pretty fun. But
I was gonna say that was crazy.
Yeah, the StackBlitz guys they come up with some really impressive tech. So I think those were just the most impressive on that scale.
I did love the StackBlitz rickroll, and to get a progressive web app to update simultaneously with that many people all at the same time was kind of amazing, because the conference Wi-Fi, I mean, you put that many developers in one room and the Wi-Fi is going to be kind of strained, but it was just, it really loaded quickly and everybody, that was really cool. Yeah, I agree with that. Plus they're super fun guys.
Yeah.
They're really nice.
Yeah, they seem to get a lot of good feedback. I'm looking forward to checking out their talks.
Another talk, as long as I've already claimed the floor, another talk I really enjoyed was Ward Bell's talk with Xander, I don't remember his last name, on introducing observables in RxJS. I think it was a really good talk for people who are trying to understand just that basic concept, which really has become key to Angular and the Angular world. I was watching it both as a developer and as an instructor, and there are quite a few things that I'm going to be thinking about of how to teach that topic myself to people in the future. But if you're a viewer of this and you're curious about RxJS, I'd recommend checking that one out.
I think
that's Ward Bell and Sonder.
Go ahead.
Elias, Sonder's a really cool guy and Google developer expert, super smart guy and very nice. And Ward, of course, is super smart and the coolest dresser.
And that guy's amazing. I just want to put it out there that he helped me with my talk so much. I love
Who,
him.
Ward Bell?
Yes. He's amazing.
We love you, Ward Bell.
We love you.
That's great. So with the, what aspects of teaching observables did you think were particularly useful from that talk, Lance?
What I really liked about it was how they explained the use case of them. And that's something that I have trouble teaching when I'm teaching observable. I find myself getting just wrapped up too soon into here's an operator and here's another cool operator and here filter and map and switch map. And they really just started simple and built up to that. And by the end, I think they did a good job. If you want to learn switch map, though, go watch Shai's play. That's the true way to learn switch map.
Yes.
But just overall, just building it up with just the use case, and maybe I'm not going to be able to duplicate that teaching a class on my own, just because they did so much of playing off each other, good cop, bad cop, and what is that? Or why are you doing that? That doesn't make sense. Well, let me explain it to you. If I try to do that in a class, I'll come off as not mentally stable, which won't work as well.
Peter Bacon Darwin. Like, I didn't really know him. I think he was at ng-conf last year, but I didn't have a chance to get to know him. And I really got to know him a little bit better at Angular Connect in London. But he's so funny. Like, he's kind of quiet at first, but then he's hilarious. And especially on stage with Shai and Brocky, that was the funniest thing. That was super funny. But also it was really, because they've been talking on Twitter and about stack or switch map and how it's kind of confusing, and I've seen it because I was confused too. So there was a lot of conversation about that. So the topic was actually really good. But you don't realize you're learning because you're laughing your butt off.
That talk was definitely one of my all-time favorite talks. I switched a map. It was just explained switch map so well, and just I liked how they broke it down to a funny scenario. They broke down the code. They showed it in terms of something that we can relate into tweets and an old framework migrating to a new framework. It was just so funny. It made complete sense. It was perfect.
Sarah, have you seen Shai's older talks, the NG What and NG Show?
No, I should.
If you get time, go on YouTube there's this series he has called Serious Dev Talk. It is the funniest. It's the most awkward and adorable thing. And he has these really big names in the Angular industry and so hilarious. He's funny. Yeah, go watch, because if you just search for him on YouTube, there's a lot of stuff out there. You're gonna love it.
Awesome, thanks. Definitely will look into it. The talks are so. I'm still waiting for what was it, the rabbi and change detection or something that he left off with on that last talk.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make sure he comes through with that next year.
Yeah,
you promised, Shai. You promised.
I'm planning to submit a talk with that title next year. It might have a completely different actual topic, but I'm going to use that title.
Hey, he did impersonate Brad Green on stage, so you could probably get up there and be like, "Hi, I'm Shai Resnick." Yeah. But you better be funny, Lance.
I was Uri.
Yeah. You were very good, Uri. You even did the thing.
It was so
Sam impersonated Uri Goldstein at Angular Mix in Florida. And she was she had the wig and the beard, and she was it was great. She did a good job.
About it makes my face itch.
Oh, that's awesome. Is there footage of this? We need to post this someplace.
It's bootleg cell phone footage, because they didn't actually have proper AV. Well, they did have AV the first day, but we were on the second day and they didn't record our sessions. But someone in the audience did and posted it to YouTube. So it's there, but it's shaky cell phone footage. And ignore the karaoke in the beginning, because Sam and I like to sing when we're warming up the audience.
A really good talk that I saw, unofficially, officially, was Jeff and Nathan's. That was a really good talk. And the impromptu dancing was really awesome.
This is the flash mob?
Well, no,
yeah,
when in their talk, so this was about multi-platform development.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing a demo of the app that they built for this for their talk, and it was probably 2.5, 3 minute video, and they're up there just rocking out on stage, dancing around each other.
They are super fun.
Yeah.
Is that the one with the sketches?
Yeah, and all the speakers got sketches. Everybody for their talks got a sketch.
Yes.
I think,
and we can still see that. And do you guys know where? Because I'm actually writing all this down so I can catch up with it, because I still have a lot of ng-conf stuff to watch on YouTube. But do you know what the URL is or where we can find it?
I know my sketch was on Twitter. I think he tweeted all of them, but there is a website, I think.
So the website is sketchpoints.io/ngconf 2018.
Sketchpoints, plural?
Yes.
ngconf 2018.
Yep.
And I have to say, so shout out to Nathan, because I'm wearing my NativeScript hat, but also who loved Nathan's Van Halen outfit?
Oh my goodness. That was epic.
It was epic. That was like my favorite. I think we were talking about having a costume contest, but I think he totally would have just nailed it with that Van Halen. That was over the top.
Yeah, that was above and beyond.
Yeah, I loved it.
Awesome. So there was a lot of NGRX talks this year, a ton of it, right? Anyone catch some of those? What did they like?
There was one workshop that I caught that was pretty good. What was that? That one guy and that little girl.
And this guy, and he was live coding, and he nailed it. I can't exactly remember his name, but it was really solid. That was a solid.
I think his name started with a K. Yeah, no, we're being silly. So okay, so Keith and Sam did a what was it called? Just Another Marble Monday.
Yes.
Which was actually Keith's first big conference talk, and he did really well. He was awesome. But speaking of live coding, nailing some live coding. Did you guys see The Littlest Dev on day one with the animations?
Yes.
Yes.
That was pretty epic, Samantha.
Thank you.
But that was pretty cool. So if you guys didn't see The Littlest Dev, reusable animations, it's a little 5-minute talk. She was super cool.
She was very high energy about it too.
She had the whole audience, like, because every time something started to go wrong, and like I'm her mom and I'm in the front row, and she's like, oh no, and I see the panic in her face, and then like she worked it out, she fixed it, and then she like was going again, and she's like, okay, we got this, and the whole audience is like going through this whole like roller coaster of emotion right along with her. It was great.
I'm sorry.
No, it was cool. It was a lot of fun.
You're also the one that did the custom snippets, right? In Visual Studio Code, or
yes.
That was awesome. I didn't even know that was a feature. Like I was gonna Google that as soon as I left your time. It's like, that's so cool.
I kind of went crazy. I made snippets out of everything. Like, oh, I typed this. Let's make a snippet. Anything I typed, let's make a snippet.
Yeah, that is awesome. That's definitely something wow.
Yeah, VS Code is awesome. Speaking of VS Code, did anybody get Burke Holland's talk?
No, I wanted to see that. I really wanted to meet Burke Holland. How many times you want to bet I walked right past him in the hallway and I didn't know who he was, because he's like super cool.
Yeah, he is cool.
We should have. Yeah, we need to get him. Sam, remind me, or Keith, don't let it. We need to get him on ngHouston, because I really, really, really wanted to see that talk.
Okay, Ed, remind Keith to remind me to remind Mom. Burke Holland.
Burke Holland, come on the show.
Yeah.
Because all my favorite people love Burke Holland, so he must be cool, right?
Right? He tweeted about me. He must be cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to go to that one, but I couldn't make it, and that's one of the great things, but also one of the bad things about Fair Day and how it works. Because for those who haven't been, the middle day of the 3-day conference, there are something like 6 or 7 different things going on at once. There are 3 main rooms. There's a smaller room. There's expert rooms. There's tour of hero rooms. There's a panel discussion. There might, all of these things going on. There's an escape bus. There are donuts on a wall. I mean, you can't be everywhere at once. Unfortunately, most of those things are recorded, so you can watch them later, but not all of them. But it becomes like there's just a plethora of choices. And I wrote it down at one point, and there was one half hour where I wanted to be in 4 places at once because all of the great content that was going on.
I felt like that the whole week. And yeah, you can't get those maple donuts with bacon bit sprinkles on YouTube. You can't do that.
Yeah, the donut wall was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. It looks like Charlie and Kent have some too. Charlie, was that VS? So Charlie just put a note in the yeah.
So I did go to that talk, and it was really cool because there were actually a couple of things that I was like, really? So since I've been home, I've actually been using some of them, like the Prettier extension, where it'll like format your entire document for you just with a couple of keystrokes and stuff. So he, at the end, he put out a site that has all this information, and I think even more on it, and it's vscodecandothat.com. So go check that out. But it was a very interesting talk, for sure.
No, go ahead, Charlie. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, since I have the floor, one thing that I attended on the second day that was really interesting, and it was for a lot of other people too, was the talk that Hanyu gave about streamlining AngularJS migration. So he's the guy that is the founder of AngularDoc, and I think it was like a 20-minute talk, and it was in one of the smaller rooms. You wouldn't believe the number of people that were trying to cram into this room to see this thing. But he
Charlie,
built.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh.
I was going to say, we had him on here. He practiced his talk before ngConf on ngHouston like 2 weeks ago. And it was like an hour episode, and he was like going through answering questions. You should check that out if you liked it. I love Hanyu. He's super cool.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. He showed off that Copilot tool that he built, and everybody was just dumbfounded. I mean, it's like, wow, you can click like 5 buttons and have an Angular 2+ app ready to go. So I thought that was really cool. And it's good to see that there are people out there that are trying to make that sort of thing easier for, people or companies or whatever that are still kind of lagging behind, such as myself. So I thought that was very impressive.
Yeah, I agree. Quite often when folks start to talk about the idea of migrating from AngularJS to Angular, it's more like, we're just going to rewrite our application. And it just doesn't feel like that should be the case. It should be a little easier. So yeah, it's great to see a tool like that.
Mm-hmm.
And some more resources if you're going through the upgrade process. Sam Julien, who runs the Angular PDX up in Portland, Oregon, he runs the meetup up there. He has an upgrading Angular course that he did that's pretty comprehensive. And then also Denny, one of our other ngHouston organizers, did a 5-part series on AngularJS, which is also on our channel.
Cool.
But yeah, also Hanyu's talk just from a couple weeks ago is on our channel, and he did a great job. And he's a super nice guy. And I think he said he's putting together a conference in China soon.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have to submit talks for that. I'm like, where's that CFP?
Right.
Yeah.
That's going to be a long flight.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in October, I think, this year, or is what they're shooting for at least.
That sounds super fun.
Yeah. So Kent, looks like you saw the NGRX selectors talk, yeah?
Yeah, and I'll definitely echo what Lance said about wanting to be in multiple places at once. There were so many good sessions. Not to mention, I see somebody walking through the halls at about 10 o'clock on the second day with this sign called NG Dance. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do that. So that competed with all the wonderful sessions. But so this NGRX selectors was particularly helpful for me because I've done a few implementations of Redux, and I use NGRX in my Ionic application. And I got to the point where my actions, my store, my reducers, the way I had done things was pretty unwieldy. And the selectors talk by Todd Motto and David East was just exactly the next step that I need to take. So I really liked that talk. And of course, there was a bunch of other talks that I missed on NGRX in general. So RxJS and observables by Ward Bell. I really want to go through that one, but I definitely like the selectors talk.
Awesome.
Yeah, David and Todd are such good teachers.
Oh, and now I want to go. So Todd mentioned that he spent 3 months on an RxJS course or NGRX course, and now I want to go buy that. It was such a good talk that I want to go buy his course now.
Yeah, that's great. He's got a lot of good content on his site too, so it would definitely be worth the money getting into it. All right. So, any other talks that stand out to folks?
I saw a security talk, which I thought was interesting.
Okay.
Just kind of went through a lot of big security stories, and it doesn't really get enough spotlight, I don't think, in the Angular community, but because it can be really easy to screw up. And I think Asim did it, and it was definitely worth a watch.
Oh, I saw that. Was that on day one?
He was trying to make everyone pee their pants because they were so scared of it, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. He had 3 stories and ICON actually, several months ago, but it was about a GitHub hack, and it was pretty good.
Awesome.
I have one, I think, and it might sound kind of obvious, but maybe not. Really, I thought the keynotes were, I mean, I always think the keynotes are kind of amazing. And this one was, I think day one keynote was Brad, Mishko, and Kara. And these people are, like, all three of them are really so, I have nothing but respect for them. And I really admire them, and they're such nice people. And I always think the keynote for me is like, it's like inspirational, which I don't know if that's, it's just like how far we've come and what's coming up, and it's like the whole community, you know, State of the Union kind of thing. And I just love it. But they're really dynamic on stage, and I like watching them talk.
They're really, really nice.
They are. They're
My
such nice people.
Was when Brad Green said that all versions of everything coming out from now on all the names and titles will match. I rejoiced.
Yeah, I think we all rejoiced.
I could definitely second that with Brad and everybody being really nice, because not only did I like their talks, but for lunch the first day, I was trying to find a table, and then I says, "Oh, can I sit over here?" And it was Brad Green's table, and he had the shirt on that says, "You can sit with us." And well, great. So I got a chance to sit there and talk with Brad and Kara and Stephen Fluen, and I think there was a few others. It was just really nice to be able to talk to the speakers. They're very friendly, and was able to get into deep technical conversations. And for me, I was even able to ask, because I was before the conference, I was trying to decide, okay, do I like Angular or React or both, or do I want to go hard one way or the other, because I started to look into React. And as I sat at the speaker table that day, I asked them those questions, and they gave me really, really good answers, especially Stephen Fluen. But I just really liked how not only did I like the keynote, but afterwards I was able to go and spend lunch with the keynote speakers, and that was pretty meaningful. It was really nice to get into those deep conversations with the experts.
Absolutely. They are so nice.
It's one of the great things about ng-conf and the Angular community. Like, and because I love that they, like, to me, I mean, especially my first ng-conf, right? I'm like looking at them and I'm like, wow, like I really admire them so much, but they don't take themselves too seriously. They don't act as nearly as important as I would expect them to. And they're just really down to earth and super friendly. And yeah, it just makes you love them even more. And did you see Brad's huge cowboy hat?
I missed that.
Yeah.
I can't believe I missed that.
It was, I think it was on Fair Day. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That hat was in the front row of our Marble Monday talk.
That was awesome. And there was also a balloon sculpture of Brad. There was a Demogorgon, and then there was Brad Green, which I thought was pretty hilarious.
Was that the one by the sponsor room, or was Brad Green by the desk?
Well, one was a Demogorgon. It was like a monster. So if you can't tell the difference between those two, I can't help. I don't know where they were, but yeah. That was super fun.
So on Thursday night, Thursday night? Yeah, Thursday night was the one where they had like the board games and things like that.
Yeah.
So I went and I did the D&D thing, and actually, Bonnie, you were supposed to be at my table. I was like, oh, this will be a great opportunity for me to meet her, because, you know, I've heard in just the one day I've been there, I've heard so much from like Keith about her and stuff. But anyway, after I was finished with that, I walked out, and, you know, there weren't a whole lot of people walking around. This was probably about 10, 15 or so. And there's Brad Green. He's just kind of, you know, chilling, just kind of walking around, and he looks and he says, hey, and he just keeps walking, just doing his thing. He's just kind of walking around. Just seeing
so nice.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry I missed D&D. I was really excited. Like, I felt the Fair Day where like you have to be in like all these, like I felt like that the whole week. There was so much that I wanted to do and so many places that I needed to be in, and I really was that D&D was, it seemed super fun. I saw the pictures and it seemed like it was a lot of fun. I hated to miss that.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah, I saw the D&D players. I was playing a different board game, but during the game it was even fun just to play with developers, because we get into these conversations. And there had been practices that I had been thinking were good that I was doing for years. And I talked to the guy next to me, and he convinces me of completely the opposite of what I was doing. So the little moments like that of just socializing with the people that are there make it all worth it. It was really fun.
Awesome, guys. So did anyone catch any of the panels? There were a number of panels for different topics: testing, NGRX, security. Anyone catch a panel that was interesting?
I went to one of the RxJS panels, with Brad. I forget his name. Brett.
But
and
I think Ben Lesh was on.
Oh yes,
one,
Ben.
right?
Sorry, Ben Lesh. Yes, it was really good. They went over like sort of like best practices for RxJS, and one of them that I'm guilty of is using a subscribe within a subscribe. And he did call me out for doing that, and what I should use instead. So definitely helpful advice. And yeah, besides that panel, also just like there were a bunch of like speaker panels, like informal ones where you could just go up to a speaker and do like a code review or ask questions. So I actually spoke to Tina, Gao, and Natasha. So Tina for material UI questions and Natasha for just like complex forms questions. And both of them were really helpful. Like I actually showed them my code and they went through it and they offered me advice and like how to fix certain things and like and they fixed it. It works. My code works because of the questions I was able to ask them. So like it was so helpful. Like awesome.
That is so awesome.
Did you see Natasha's talk? The D&D
Yes,
character sheet?
The D&D talk was great. I actually it was so good. I didn't know forms already existed before her talk. I didn't know about subscribing with value changes. Like it was so useful. Yeah, definitely.
I love value changes. Yeah, I was pretty excited about that. I have so many talks that I need to watch, and I was planning on doing that this week, and then I accidentally ended up in Vegas. But the
best of us.
Huh?
Happens to the best of us.
But that reactive forms character sheet I thought was such a fun idea. Like that's such a fun way to teach. So that was cool. So that's definitely on my list of ones to watch.
Yeah, definitely really good.
She called it,
so
I think.
Cool that you were. Go ahead, Keith.
So I think she called it something like complex forms build character, which is just nice that she has a really good sense of humor. And I think the main recommendation that I took away from that talk is she said put nested forms in separate classes. And so she made that point really clear, and that's definitely what I plan to do. But I definitely liked her sense of humor.
I love it when super smart people are also pretty silly and whimsical. And then, but that's like also like really witty, the way that she like did that and like, you know, made it kind of into like a pun, like with the, not a pun, but like, yeah, I love her sense of humor.
Awesome. There was a lot of good humor this year, it seemed like. Maybe this 80s theme really brought it out of everyone, but there was a lot of just really entertaining content, it seemed like.
The blue eyeshadow, I think, I was trying to rock the blue eyeshadow on Fair Day, but I think it's best left in the 80s. It was good for nostalgia. Samantha's like, Mom, that's not a good look. Sam was telling me we were putting our outfits together and he was trying to give me advice on 80s fashion. And I was like, you know, I was actually there in the 80s. Like, so I'm qualified to do this. But it was.
Did you get on camera at all, Bonnie, with that?
With the blue eye? No. No, it was tragic. And my outfit was, well, I mean, I think I was on camera, like I took some pictures with Van Halen, but it was towards the end of the day. The blue eyeshadow was just tragic. Yeah, we'll leave that back in the 80s. But it was fun. I try not to take myself too seriously, but Samantha told me it was tragic. First thing in the morning, I was like, thanks, Sam. She speaks truth.
You gotta be nicer to your mom, Sam.
It's for her own,
yeah.
You know? I'm trying.
It was tragic. She was right. But yeah, she's brutal.
All right. Well, so there were a lot of things other than talks and panels going on as well. And we've already hit on a little bit of it, D&D and board games. There were quite a few other activities. Did you guys partake? Any favorites?
Karaoke.
Yeah, the karaoke was pretty fun.
I have not published this because I think I'm just saving it for maybe blackmail material. But I actually have live footage of Brad Green singing Michael Jackson. And I didn't tweet it. I kind of wanted to tweet it, but I was like, I don't know if I should tweet it or not, but it was great. It was so great.
Somebody tweeted it. It's out there.
Yeah. That was pretty funny. And Jeff Whelpley and Nathan Walker actually legit can seriously sing, like for real, and not like developer karaoke, but like legit. Because Nathan used to be like a Nashville star before he was a developer. So those boys have some pipes.
Wow.
Wait, I've heard that before, and I think that was like an urban legend.
No, seriously, I have pictures. When I was doing, I think I was trying to do speaker tweets before ngConf, and I did some research because I was like stalking Nathan back like a long time ago. The first time he ever did Angular Air, he was one of the early adopters of Angular 2, way back like when it was in beta, and they had him on the show, and he had guitars up on back behind him, and I think there is footage somewhere of him. But yeah, I think he had an album out in Nashville. Yeah, legit.
Okay.
I think one of the things that was really fun was the DeLorean they had on the party by AG Grid that first night. That's on my Facebook profile page. That was really neat. Not to mention the party was just really, really good. I liked it.
Hey, I think we have summoned Jeff. Hey, Keith, is it okay if Jeff Welpley joins us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Since we're talking about him.
Tell him to bring his wife. We miss her.
Oh yeah, well he's gonna jump in here in a minute, and we can tell him. I finally got to meet Carolyn this year, and I was super excited but I didn't really get to spend enough time with her because I was running around all over the place. But I really liked her a lot. She was cool. So hopefully she'll be back next year. And I met his daughters. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, I guess I can ask him when he gets here. I'm wondering if they took part in the NG Kids event.
They did. They did. Okay. And they learned to dance, and they learned some coding, and they were showing me, his youngest was showing me the dance that she learned at the end. But we also need to ask him when he gets here if it's true that Nathan Walker was a real Nashville star, or if it's just a rumor.
Yeah, I guess if anyone knows, it would be Jeff. But I don't know. It's going to be hard to convince me until I see some real footage.
I'm pretty sure. I think that's a true story. Well, he does sing like a legit Nashville star. They do have pretty good pipes.
What did he sing?
It was either he was a Nashville star or he was like in a hair band.
Did he jump?
No, that was Van Halen.
No, at karaoke, Mom.
Oh yeah, I tweeted that.
Yeah, he definitely killed it.
Well, we'll have to.
What about,
there he is.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Carolyn, okay, so Jeff, is it true that Nathan is a legit Nashville star? Whether he was, and Carolyn, are you coming back next year? Those are my 2 questions for you guys.
What about NG Kids? You forgot NG Kids.
Yeah, 3 questions.
Okay, so 1, Nathan is not a Nashville star. That was a rumor that I started. Not true at all, but it is good. It is a good one, and he is actually a really good singer. He's legit. And what was the second one?
Is Carolyn coming back next year? No, that was the third one, Sam.
Oh,
we have so many questions for you guys.
Yeah, I think we want to come back next year. What do you think?
Yeah, we had to check the time.
Yeah, it worked out.
Day was perfect.
Yeah, it worked out this year because it was right during our kids' spring break. But nice. We'll see for next year. But
next year, first week in May.
Yeah,
I think May 1st and 4th. So just put that on your calendar. Just I can write a note for the school, Carolyn. Don't worry, we got you. It's educational.
But NG Kids was amazing. They loved it so much. Oh my gosh! Like every night when we got back to the hotel room, they were just about all the stuff they were learning, all the friends in there, stuff like that. In fact, my older one, who's 7 years old, is so inspired that she wants to start NG Club at her elementary school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
And she's like serious. The whole way home, she was like talking about the plans of like what they would do and what they would learn, all this different stuff. So we'll see what we can do about that. And she wants to start the NG Club. Then she wants to come back next year and speak at ngConf about NG Club.
That would be super cool. And actually, if she's going to start NG Club, or even if she's thinking about starting NG Club, we can get her into the NG Community Slack channel with all the other meetup organizers. It's a really good resource, and she'll get kind of encouragement, advice, momentum, And we can also all help her promote her club and get the word out. And when she's ready for that.
Definitely. Definitely.
Carolyn, what was your favorite talk?
I'm on a delay somehow.
What was your favorite talk?
Oh, that's tricky. I like materials.
The Angular material one and the security one, right?
The materials and I'm sorry.
The security
this is
one
like
too.
A minute behind. And
Yeah.
the security one and the Oregon Trail one.
And the Oregon Trail one.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What
Oregon
Oregon Trail?
The pipes one.
Yeah.
It was a lightning talk.
Yeah, it was a pipes one. Yeah, it was a 5-minute
Tanner's
one.
pipe.
Tanner from Tanner.
Oh, Tanner was right. Yeah, that.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
animation.
That guy is so cool.
Sam called that. Sam, you
I
were
did.
talking about him.
I
Animation.
did.
Oh.
I wrote the tweet
And
for
animation.
him.
Okay.
And I said, this guy's gonna be cool. I can feel it. I know what I'm talking about. I said, Tanner, I'm calling it right now. Tanner's gonna be a cool guy. And then we got there, and guess what? Tanner was a cool guy. I totally
What
called
do
it.
you know?
She was right after him, and they were both having nervous breakdowns backstage when they were getting mic'd up together. So it was like a bonding moment. I have a picture of them before and after their talks, and they were terrified together, and then they both rocked it. And then there was just this whole, woo. And then as soon as she came off stage, she's like, now it's time to relax. And then Keith goes, Sam, we got to rehearse.
Yeah, at least I got lunch in between my talk and my other talk.
No rest for the wicked.
Yep.
Those
Slave
orange
driver here.
they're demanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tanner is
Awesome.
really super cool.
So I'm curious, Jeff and Carolyn, what kinds of things did they teach at NG Kids? What were your kids coming away with?
Well, so they do split them up by different age groups, or different. I shouldn't say that, by different proficiency levels. And so I think to start off with, like they do a lot of what was the name, like a code pen or
Yeah, they played like
Dude.
Robot Turtles.
yeah, they played Robot Turtles, which was like a beginning thing, which is like just like a board game, which is really cool. You guys should play. Like even 5 years old, like you can play Robot Turtles.
They made the binary bracelet.
And then and like you did your name and code, like they so it's like a lot of basics type stuff, like of just like understanding the concepts.
And then Tinker.
And then Maddie started, my older one started using Tinker, which is again one of these sites for doing like GUI based programming where you have like visual and you kind of like drag and drop them.
I think it had multi-levels to it.
Oh, and
She
then
was
they had other
also
ones.
writing some
Okay.
stuff with it.
Yeah, and they did have actually like written code as like a higher level once you get there. So and then the older kids were doing a lot of more advanced stuff. I think they were building web apps and like so they build up. They do a really good job. They actually bring in a lot of people that know what they're doing. The last day they actually have a STEM bus that comes in that they learn.
Mhm.
They learn a bunch of stuff and go to what was the
They
museum?
went to the Leonardo.
Oh, the Leonardo Museum in Salt Lake City. So they went on like a field trip, which was really cool. So if you have kids, definitely bring them for NG Kids.
That
Did you hear
sounds
that,
great.
Keith?
Yeah.
Keith, you have kids?
I do. I was tempted. A while back, Bonnie and Sam and I had talked about maybe doing some sort of an event here in Houston for teaching kids as well. That seems like a lot of fun. Didn't we a while back? I think we had an NG Houston episode where we had younger folks, not exactly young kids, but like teenagers learning how to do game development with Unity.
With
was
Abe
pretty-
Haskins from Firebase. And you can follow him on Twitter at Abe is great. And he actually is great. And yeah, that was a super fun episode. And we always meant to have him back. He's like super busy building amazing, cool things, but we really need to drag him back. And he didn't make it to ng-conf this year.
I know.
So yeah, we need to, so shout out to Abe. We need to have you back on because that was a fun episode.
That was super cool.
And I really do think, Keith, because I met your kids and your kids are super cool too. And I think you should bring them to NG Kids because I think they would love it. They're old enough, right? Super old enough.
Yeah, I got a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, so a few different age groups there. But
And of course, if you bring your kids, you got to bring your wife.
absolutely, yeah, she needs to learn a little programming.
Absolutely. Bring her to us. Bring her to NG Girls. Speaking of which, we did NG Girls too. Sarah, were you in NG Girls? You were. Right?
No, I wasn't. I was at.
Oh no,
because
you're not a beginner. You were already like a rock star developer. So we had NG Girls on Monday, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed NG Girls. It's very inspiring to be a part of that, and it's just beginners. It's like a crash course. It's a free workshop. For girls to come in and just kind of do like one day of coding just to see if this is something that they want to pursue. And it's always inspiring to be a part of that. And I always try to get the girls to come back. If they're beginners 1 year and then they pick it up and run with it, then I always try to get them to come back the following year as mentors and pay it forward and kind of continue to spread that out. And NG Girls is also doing, they're going to be at Google I/O, I think this week or next week, they're going to do another NG Girls in California. NG Girls is like everywhere now. It's amazing. It's a really fun program.
Yeah, I keep on seeing them popping up on Twitter all the time.
Well, if you want to get your wife into Angular, that would be a really good place for her to start. Or if she doesn't want to wait until next year, just give her my number.
Absolutely. Looked like you had a pretty good turnout for NG Girls at ng-conf, right?
It was the biggest one we've ever done. I think we had, between attendees, I think we had like 65 attendees and like 25 mentors signed up. And we had a couple of last minute cancellations, but the room was full and it was really great. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Cool. So maybe we can, since we're kind of rounding it out here, maybe if anyone has any takeaways from the conference as a whole, anyone got some perspective to lay on us here?
I would say the biggest thing that I learned the very first time I went to ng-conf, and it rings true every time I go back, is that really, I mean, you can learn a lot and you can watch these videos on or on YouTube, and it's super, super educational. But to me, the best, most fun and valuable thing about going there in person that you really can't get on YouTube is the camaraderie and the networking and meeting people and just having that. I always encourage people to exchange contact information and keep in touch after the conference, because it's amazing. I mean, I learned AngularJS by myself back in 2013, right? So just having other people to collaborate with and kind of ask questions, because I've learned so many people that, like, I know things that they don't know, but they also know other things that I don't know. So it's like this really valuable trade-off, and super, super nice people in the development community. So that would be my takeaway is there are things that you cannot get on YouTube. That's just this in-person, like Sarah said, asking them questions, like asking experts questions about your code and having them just like, oh, they just off the top of their head, like, yeah, I know how to fix that. It's amazing. But also just really making friends, I think, for me is the most fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you go to ng-conf, bring a lot of business cards and introduce yourself to people.
So for my takeaways, one part of it builds on what Bonnie just said. As I said before, this is my second ng-conf. In between, I went to ng Atlanta, and maybe 3 is the magic number, but now I really do feel like when I walk into the room for a conference like this, I know a good number of people in the room. I can walk through and, I'll see, Bonnie and Sam and, Tara, and, there's just a bunch of people that I now know and they know me. And there are other people that I figured like, I sat next to them at ng Atlanta or ng-conf once. They wouldn't necessarily remember me because they were a speaker, but hey, Minko waved at me when I walked past, so he remembers me. The Angular community overall does seem to be very accepting and very, very open in a way that not all open source communities are. On the more technical side, my takeaways are that the reactive nature of Angular is coming out more and more. Like last year, there were a lot of talks about you're going to need to know NGRX and RxJS. And this year, it seemed more of, yeah, you need to know it now. And, like it's just assumed that it is something that everyone needs to work with, and the observable nature is coming out. Like last year, a lot of the talks were about tools that were going to be cool, like the CLI and AOT, and now it's just assumed that they're in there. That of course, everyone uses the CLI. And the final thing was that it really is clear that AngularJS is in the rearview mirror.
Absolutely, that was.
So I'm going to piggyback off of what he just said with the AngularJS being in the rearview mirror. So like I mentioned at the beginning, you know, my team is still very much in Angular JS world. So for me, the biggest takeaways were just kind of learning about, you know, kind of the current state of everything. So, you know, things like the observable pattern and NGRX and those sorts of things. It's just there's a lot to take in, and it's nice that there are so many resources out there to really get started on these different things. And you know, I think my team's going to benefit a lot from this stuff because you know, some of the things that we started with when we got into AngularJS is, you know, we made the decision up front that we're going to do TypeScript, and you know, we're going to use the John Papa style guide. And so, you know, I've done a little bit of Angular coding myself, and there's a lot of similarities to what we're already doing. So I think that our transition will be easy. But anyway, overall, I would say that for me, it was more of a fire hose of information. And so I'm still, you know, kind of processing, but it was great, and I really hope that I can go back next year, and maybe I will be in a very different place then.
I wanted to respond about the rearview mirror and kind of the thing that you said you're going through, Charlie, because I went through that a couple years ago, and it's kind of like, I think, you know, some companies have large AngularJS applications, and it's not that they want to, you know, they want to keep up with everything. It's just hard to pivot when you have such a complicated app. And I think hearing that AngularJS is in a rearview mirror might cause some panic in people, right? And AngularJS is great. It's stable. But the thing I think that jumped out at me the most when Angular evolved into 2 and beyond is that you have there's so much functionality and so many features that come out of the box, right? So like you could do these things with AngularJS. I did some of these things with AngularJS, like, you know, multiple promises and things like that. But it's so much more code, right? And when you transition into the newer Angular, it's so much cleaner, and there's so many things that you can do out of the box. It's just the super clean functionality that happens under the hood. So I actually found myself and coming from AngularJS, when I learned TypeScript, and you know, it's a little bit more strict with the TypeScript, but once I got used to that, I found that I was really writing the same functionality with like so much less code, and it's just cleaner and it's nice. And so it's a nice transition, but it's a little bit scary. But I think AngularJS is going to be there for a while, but I do totally agree with Lance's point. Like, there's so much cool stuff that you can do now that it's great to see people upgrading and the community having all these resources to make it easier for people who are going to do that, because it is kind of a lot if you have this massive AngularJS application.
Yeah, I didn't mean to scare people, and I hope I didn't, into thinking that they have to transition immediately. The team
only the people who still have a lot of code. Like, oh, yeah, it's in the rearview mirror. Oh my goodness!
And in the keynote, they announced that they're going to support on LTS for 2 or 3 years. So there will be support there, but like ongoing energy of the team and of the community and the innovation is going to be in Angular 6, 7, whatever in the future. AngularJS is a good framework, but Angular is better.
And Charlie, you were saying the fire hose, which I totally related to, because I felt the first year that I went to ngConf, I didn't know that everything was on YouTube. And I'm such a big nerd that I had like a spiral, like I was furiously taking notes in the front row every single day, the whole conference. Like I was trying to write every single thing down, and I filled an entire spiral notebook. And then I found out after I got home, and I was like super overwhelmed, that they were all on YouTube. So then the second year, or actually it was last year when I brought Sam was going through that fire hose thing, and I was like, don't try to remember all this advanced stuff. Just write down what you think is cool. Go home and watch it after you've slept. But it is like a fire hose. It's so much information.
Yeah, it really is.
Have everything on YouTube.
Yeah, and you know, kind of the other thing that I think less so on, you know, like the programming side of it. I think the other members of my team that do web development, I think the hardest thing is going to be the tooling transition, right? So, you know, everything we do right now is in Visual Studio, and, you know, it's really easy with AngularJS to just drop in a JS file, right? I mean, it's no big deal, but it's going to be the tooling change. For me, it's not such a big deal because, you know, I'm always, you know, on the side tinkering and learning anyway, but, you know, that's kind of the other aspect of it that, you know, they talk about some at the conference, you know, with like Visual Studio Code and that sort of thing. But so if you guys happen to know of any great resources about just learning the tooling and, you know, what your options are and that sort of thing, it would be really great, because that's something I'm going to have to be able to pass on.
Actually, there was one specific. So I remember I said Denny, one of our organizers, did an ngHouston series on upgrading from AngularJS to Angular, and he did a whole episode specifically on tooling. And coming from AngularJS, I could probably find that and send you a link somewhere. But the CLI, going into Webpack, Webpack, when I first learned Webpack, I spent like a week trying to get the Webpack config file all set up, because I was trying to understand all of it and not just copy and paste it. And it took me a while to wrap my head around exactly everything that was going on. And then they just put it in the CLI, and now it's super easy. And so it's really, the learning curve is much less, because you just do ng new and it just goes and it sets everything up for you and it's beautiful. But yeah, there is an episode somewhere in our archives on specifically tooling when you're changing over from AngularJS to Angular. And there's a lot of other cool resources, but there was that one that I. And like Lance said, the Sam Julien, Julien, also has a really good course.
And I think like
something I think I really keep in mind too is you don't have to start using everything all at once or learn all of this new Angular concepts and RxJS, and then just you can kind of gradually move over and, you know, maybe master one piece at a time and add it to your tool belt.
Yeah, that's a good point. Probably, Charlie, your team, I would recommend starting maybe with the CLI and with the Tour of Heroes. And then once you have those, because that's a really good overview of the basics. And then once you get like the routing and event emitters, then go on into RxJS. And then once you have RxJS mastered, then you're going to want to do ngRx after that, because ngRx builds on top of RxJS.
Cool. I will definitely be looking into all of this for sure.
And you could still use just Visual Studio. You don't necessarily need to use Visual Studio Code. So it depends on your like IDE or text editor of choice. So you could still import like an Angular 5 app into your Visual Studio solution and use it. Like, so the backend developer on my team, he uses Visual Studio. He imported the Angular CLI project that I created, and he's debugging both his services and the Angular app inside Visual Studio. So I mean, you still had that flexibility as well. Yeah.
Cool.
Kent, you had a good point.
Oh yeah, so I really like the schematics and the fact that there's the ng add as well as ng update right within the CLI. It feels like that every year the CLI team, and I talked with Hans, I think he's one of the heads on that team, they make it better and they show how committed they are to making tools that are actually valuable to people that are writing Angular apps. So I'm pretty excited to look into that, the tooling going forward.
Did you see Mike Brocky's global thermonuclear war talk?
That's one that I wanted to go to but didn't. So I'm definitely going to be watching that after the fact if it's up.
That was a great talk. That was a great talk, despite the fact that a couple of us, I think Shai and I and a couple other people, Melissa Marin and a few others, we were in the front row heckling him, and he was up there trying to be professional and serious, and we probably weren't helping, but it was a really good talk, and it was specifically on schematics, which you probably can't get from the title, but it was a good talk too.
Oh, good. Thanks for pointing that out. Now I'll go grab it from the list. Oh, I should yeah, there's actually a really great list of all of the on confsnap.com of all the sessions. So anybody could go there, and I'll paste the link.
Where is that, snap.com?
Yeah, confsnap.com. Just barely pasted the link there. /events/ng-conf-18. That's actually where I go to get the materials. And some of the materials are missing, but I think that's got most of them.
I think Carolyn said something. Jeff, I think Carolyn's on the delay, but she said something on the, because we were talking about ng girls, and then we just kept right on going. But she had a group, Moms Can Code.
Oh,
Carolyn.
Yeah, there was the day after the conference. There was Moms Can Code.
No. What I'm saying is that he was saying he wants to get his wife into coding.
Oh, because and what group was it?
So it's called Moms Can Code. I put it on the side of the YouTube.
Okay, so Carolyn's saying that there's a group Moms that Code that's good if you're just getting into programming, that she's been using, and anyone else that is interested in getting into it initially. That's what Carolyn recommended.
Someone was saying they wanted their wife was going to start.
Keith.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Carolyn. I'll pass that along. That sounds great.
Yeah.
She's super cool. We need to just get her, like, you know, shove her right into the community. I think she would get along really well.
Sure. I'll put her on the panel for next week.
You should. Actually, I really would love to do another girls episode. Carolyn, hint, hint, hint. And Sarah, you could probably join us too. It's hard to get. I mean, I like everybody, right? I don't care, but it's so hard to get girls active in the community, and there's not enough, right? So it's fun sometimes to like specifically kind of go out and grab them and say, hey, we want you to participate.
Yeah, that's true.
So many of you on the panel here went to NG Atlanta. There was supposed to be a little larger girl population at that one. How did that feel? What was the energy like there?
The fashion was on point. Like, I've never seen so much fashion at a tech conference. The fashion was crazy. But yeah, there were so many girls and they were so fun. So fun. It was a really great conference. There were a lot of great speakers and great people, and just in general was lots of good energy.
At NG Atlanta, there was a girl in my NG Girls group actually who won a scholarship from Moms Can Code.
Debbie. I love her.
She was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's really awesome.
Carolyn, I should introduce you. We should introduce you to Deborah because she was really cool, and she's also in that group.
Yeah.
And she also speaks very highly of it, that it's a really good group to be in.
Yeah, I went to both conferences, and while the diversity was more front and center as an explicit goal for NG Atlanta, I think that ngConf did a good job of supporting those issues as well. I mean, it wasn't explicitly a goal. Like, if you go to the NG Atlanta website, I think it's like, Angular and diversity. Like, those are the two goals. ngConf, that is not the primary focus, but they had a code of conduct, and they talked about it on the main stage at the very beginning of the 2 of the days. They had buttons that you could have for your pronouns to support trans people and non-binary people. There's a lot of outreach at both conferences. I'm just a cishet white dude, so I'm comfortable just by default in tech spaces, but I'm glad that I'm not the only type of person who is.
That's great, Lance. Cool, thanks. Jeff, you got a couple of takeaways you wanna talk about?
Yeah, my 2 biggest ones were first of all, the new rendering engine for Angular, which is behind a flag in Angular 6. So it's not by default. You actually have to set the compiler option to turn it on, because they're still testing some stuff out, but it's called Ivy, and a lot of cool stuff. I was actually starting to read the design doc today a little bit, and just really cool the way that they're approaching it. I mean, it was a total, rewrite. Once again, I think this is like the 6th time they've rewritten the rendering engine on the internal guts of Angular without changing the API, which is kind of cool that they've been able to do that. But a lot of benefits. Some of the biggest things is that they're making, as a first-class citizen, everything within the internals of Angular tree shakeable, so that it's just sort of like there's another framework called Svelte. I don't know if you guys ever seen that, where the whole thing is that the framework kind of goes away once you compile it for your end product. And in a similar way, Angular in the future will have more and more tooling and more libraries for everyone. But because of the way that they're structuring the library moving forward, it'll be able to extract out all those any piece of code that you're not missing. I mean, to the point where one thing I forget whether they mentioned this during the conference, but if you don't use ngIf, for example, in your code, that's not included in the final final package that when you build your production build, which is like amazing because obviously it's part of the core framework, but just because you don't use it in your templates, they're going to be able to see that and just not include it. It's like that fine grained. So that's pretty amazing and sort of the future there. And then the other thing that really amazed me was StackBlitz. I think there's been a number of similar sites in the past, maybe for doing like coding on the web or whatever. But the thing in particular that hit me during the conference was that, I think there's been something missing since the old AngularJS days, where like the way people got into AngularJS, originally, because it was this magical experience that you can just kind of like throw some code into HTML really quickly and it just like works. Like that's what got people in. It was like low barrier of entry, and you experience that like magical moment really quickly. But now with modern web apps, there's so much tooling involved, and the CLI is helping with that, no doubt. But it's still like a lot. Like there's a lot of mental space to be able to like get how all the pieces like fit together. And I feel like part of what StackBlitz does is it removes some of those barriers that like all of the build tooling is like underneath the scenes. You don't even have to think or care about it. And you're back to that point again where you're just hacking on in a template and just like seeing it immediately live. Like I had my daughter Madeline changing some stuff the other day and she was playing with it. Like, and for a 7-year-old working with the latest version of Angular, that's like amazing. So I'm a big fan of what they're doing there and have big hopes for the future.
Well, your girls are pretty exceptional. I think they get it from their mama.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's the cool thing is StackBlitz has such a beautiful interface and it's so incredibly fast. And these guys are just like, that's one of those things where, they could probably make that like a subscription-based service and make a lot of money, but yet they share it with everybody for free. And it's just amazing. And also those two guys are super, super nice and really great guys. So I'm really glad to have StackBlitz. Like they're everywhere now. Everybody's talking about them, which is well deserved because they're amazing. Don't let it go to your head, Eric and Albert.
All right. And before we call it a wrap, anyone else have any takeaways they want to talk about?
I gotta say the dancing was really, really fun. That's for sure. Have to mention that.
That's a good takeaway. Dancing is great.
And the quest was pretty cool too. I don't know if everybody else did the quest, but that was pretty cool.
I saw so many people doing the quest. I saw all these Rubik's Cubes with people taking the Rubik's Cubes apart and getting these keys. This looked amazing. I wish I could have done it. Did you do it?
Yeah, I did the quest. So the first key, it was just like Nintendo controller like keys on this web page that takes you to another web page to play Joust. And you have to get like a certain score. Well, basically you have to beat the 3rd wave in Joust in order to get the first key, which is the copper key. And then the second challenge was going up to one of the rooms on the 3rd floor and looking at 80s posters and any stickers that are any stickers that were letters on the 80s posters. You had to write them down, and then at some point you had to unscramble them, and the code was Rubik's Cube. So you get a Rubik's Cube and you have to solve it. And actually Lance solved my Rubik's Cube. So he got me the J key.
Yeah, I didn't do the quest myself because I wasn't there on Friday and I knew I wouldn't be able to finish it. But I love doing Rubik's Cube. So I put out on the conference app, hey, anyone who wants someone to do a Rubik's Cube, come find me and I'll just solve it for you. So Sarah,
I saw that your eyes roll all the way back to your head when you said somebody said taking apart a Rubik's Cube.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I could have done that.
Apart a Rubik's Cube. Yeah, but if you don't know how to solve a Rubik's, you have to know how to solve it, because if you don't know how to solve it, you can get ragey and just throw it after an hour or two. Don't ask me how I know that.
Yeah, and I saw other people that had found instructions online and were insistent that they were going to figure out how to do it online. That's how Alyssa Nichol was.
Yeah, but we didn't have online back in the 80s.
You're right. We didn't.
You couldn't Google it back in the 80s. You just had to like throw it or take it apart and put it back together.
Or memorize your grandparents' book when you're visiting them on the farm and there's nothing else to do. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, Sarah, you were going to finish talking about the
Oh yeah, so the Sessa Jade key and then the Crystal key was just an 80s trivia contest. So definitely not part of my generation. Like I'm definitely not born in that decade, so I failed miserably on the 80s trivia. But it was fun. It was really cool. I definitely enjoyed the quest, and you know, I did read Ready Player One. I saw that movie before ngConf, so I didn't see it at ngConf. But yeah, I'm definitely a fan of both the book and the movie. So I really like the Ready Player One theme for the conference as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that was fun. There were sure a lot of us that packed out that theater watching the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you weren't sitting behind Ed.
Oh, I was in the top row.
Well, so for those of you who don't know Ed, it's an inside joke because Ed's like 6'8", so you definitely don't want to sit behind Ed in the movie theater.
Is that all? I would have guessed at least 7.
Yeah,
I thought he was like 9 feet tall. But it's really cool to travel with Ed because you can find him from anywhere. And he's super fun. So if you see Ed at a conference, go say hi because he's a really nice guy.
Yeah. One of my key takeaways for the conference was that they're really adding a lot to the CLI, and it's kind of becoming a much more mature and really rounding out a lot of the development process with schematics and ng-update and now ng-add will make like setting up material for new projects much quicker and easier, especially for new people too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think the CLI team just did an update of everything coming out in version 6. I think it was yesterday as well. I'll tweet out a link to that, but a lot of good content there.
We should get them back on the show again.
Yeah, absolutely. With so much stuff that's coming out, yeah, absolutely. We need an update.
Who else works on it? I know Mike Brocky works on it, but I think he's
Hans and Philippe. Hans, so Brocky, like you meet Brocky immediately, you're gonna love him because he's like this, just so friendly and genuine. When I first met Hans, I was really intimidated by him because he was a lot more quiet, but he's like very intellectual. But then once I got to know him, like he's the nicest guy in the world, and so he was really cool. And so Philippe is the next. Because Philippe, like I know he's really nice because I've been around him, but I don't really know him. So maybe we should get him on the show because we've had Mike and Hans. Well, they're all super nice guys, but we haven't had Philippe on the show yet. So Philippe, we're coming for you.
Just a warning.
Yeah. Sorry, not sorry. Keith said I need to change my Twitter handle to sorry, not sorry, because I kind of twisted his arm because I made him I made him submit that talk against his will. And then he got picked, and I was like, sorry, not sorry. Which Ed, you know, I did the same thing to Ed and made him do a talk, and then, but you guys did really good talks. So like I can spot talent, and then I just kind of yank you out of your comfort zone, and it's okay.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It was really fun, and definitely do it again.
Yeah, same here. It's a lot of work preparing for a talk, a lot of work, but.
That is a really good point, Keith. Like because I think it's a unique perspective for you to like if there's somebody who is watching ngConf and, you know, looking at these speakers, like for me as an attendee, the speakers were very intimidating. And it took me a while to like really understand. They're just regular people, right? So do you have any advice for like somebody who might be interested in submitting a talk, but maybe a little intimidated by just the nature of it? Like, what would you have to say?
Well, So going into it for me, I didn't really reach out to too many people looking for advice. But yeah, I got this. I can handle this, and I'm pretty close here with Bonnie and Sam, and had Sam by my side the whole time. A very experienced speaker that she is. So. So, so I had a lot of help. But one of the things that I kind of realized going through that is, you know, this is a pretty inclusive community with lots of a lot of people that are very willing to help you out any way they can. So, you know, reaching out to other experienced speakers and getting their point of view. I'm finding that I think the way that I prepare for talks is not quite the same as what some other folks might do. So getting a few different perspectives and figuring out what works for you can be very helpful.
Were you
And
surprised at the number of
practice?
Were you surprised at the number of responsibilities that you guys had? I think that ngConf is more demanding of their speakers because they really, you know, have a high level of quality. So you have to like meet with because they have speaking coaches that are available, and you guys actually traded with Nathan and Jeff to make sure that like, you're watching each other's talks and just checking and giving feedback, but also the number of panels and expert stuff that you guys have to, because I think that's one of the things that's really important to ngConf is making sure that the attendees have access to the speakers, because the problem is that a lot of speakers, which I know from experience when I just started speaking recently, that you're like holed up in your hotel room practicing and like nervous and rehearsing and trying to get like everything perfect before you go on stage, and it's pretty intense. And I think like the speakers sometimes have to be reminded like, hey, you need to go and have lunch with, you know, and make sure that you talk to the community. And when they do, it's really super fun. But it's like when you get nervous and you have stage fright, like you just want to like go back to the hotel and like practice. And then after you do the talk, it's easy if you're not careful to go back to the hotel and just like pass out and sleep, you know, because it's so exhausting. But yeah, I think it's really good. But that as a first time speaker, was that like something that surprised you, or did you like that? Were you in favor of it, or was it a little much?
Yes, it was surprising. So on day 2 of the conference, it was like our schedules were just packed. So many responsibilities, which, you know, initially looking at it, it seemed kind of daunting. And I'm not saying that it wasn't tiring, but I think it also kind of kept my mind off of things. So there wasn't really much of an opportunity to get nervous for me, because, you know, it was going from time. Yeah, it was panel to give my talk to another panel, to, you know, experts room, to tour of heroes room. So there was no time to really think about it. So
yeah, you sleep when you get home.
Yeah, I know. So
or hop on a plane to Vegas a day later.
Or that, yeah, that's a good idea too. I highly recommend it.
Do it all over again.
I was planning to sleep when I got home, and then Vegas happened, and so now tomorrow I'll sleep, or the day after.
Mm-hmm.
Well, according to Twitter, I think like a quarter of ngConf ended up out in Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Probably. And Moab, lots of desert activities.
Yeah, Jeff went to Moab.
Yeah, Moab was awesome. Carolyn wanted us to go before the conference, and I was anti it, and that was my mistake. I don't know what I was thinking, because it was so great. Like, just saw so many amazing things that I'll never see again in my life, probably. Like just all the arches and canyons and everything like that. And the kids had a great time, so would highly recommend it.
Proof that you should always listen to Carolyn.
Yes. Yes.
That's another one of the things that I appreciate so much about ngConf. That Salt Lake City is a beautiful town, so much great architecture, but also just Utah in general. You're so close to so much beauty there, so many things to do. It's a great place to be.
Mountains.
Yes.
The first time I went there, I didn't know about the mountains, and I was flabbergasted because they were like right there in your face, like these massive mountains right there, and I was super excited about that. We don't have mountains really in Texas. We have overpasses.
We have man-made hills. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks everyone for joining. Many of you I got to meet at ngConf, which was great. Really appreciate that. I hopefully get to meet the rest of you in person next time around or at another conference. So again, thanks to everyone for joining, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.
See ya.